So start asking questions along the way. We'll collect them and start pulling them and funneling to our panel and our team as we get into the discussion. Again, as I mentioned, the focus of today is really to share lessons, to kind of take stock, to reflect on learnings of community-based data collection, why, how, what's working well, what's not working well, where are we at, what are sort of the key insights along the way, especially in those sites, in those projects, in those communities, in those fisheries, where we've started to experiment with the use of technology to facilitate things, to make things a bit easier, to potentially close the loop on feedback. This is a webinar and a kind of a virtual discussion. It is always, in our experience at least, it's been very difficult to really make sure that community voices are heard in these conversations. Nevertheless, it's absolutely critical. And so we've tried our best. We've tried our best to share with you voices from the field, which you'll experience through a video a bit later on, as well as various monitors and community representatives that are here today. A warm welcome to you. We're really excited to have you here, and we hope to hear from you along the way as well. Let's kick off. The meeting is being recorded. It will be available for everyone along the way, and towards the end of this call, we'll also talk to you about next steps, about our community of practice, and invite you to join that one. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce 4 speakers. I'll give the proper introduction after the video, but 4 speakers will give you a little bit of context of the 4 countries, the 4 fisheries, the 4 community-based monitoring programs that we'll visit in the video a little bit later on. So I'm going to kick off with Nestin from Madagascar. I'll be sharing my screen, and Nestin will give you a quick glimpse of the key ingredients of the community-based program in Madagascar. Over to you, Nestin.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm Nestin from Blue Ventures here in Tuliar, Madagascar. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how monitoring is done here in Madagascar, especially in southwest and southeast of Madagascar. First, we as organizations, we work, Blue Ventures work with some partners like Seed Madagascar in the southeast of Madagascar, and they do lobster monitoring, especially in Fort Dauphin. And we have 5 types of founders who support these data collections, as you see on the screen. And in the southwest of Madagascar, more precisely in Tuliar and southwest region, we have about plus 10 villages here in Madagascar who we do intervention of octopus data collections, and we have 51 octopus data collectors and 6 finfish data collectors, where we work with ABALOBI, and for the Seed Madagascar as partners, we do data collection for lobster. Actually, BV has counted about 50,000 fisher around those sites, and we do data collection especially for octopus species, finfish, and lobster. This data collection began since 2004, and for our partner in since Seed Madagascar, it began on 2013. So those data are collected every day, and we do this 5 days a week for data collections for octopus, and we do it every day for finfish, And those data will be gathered to be analyzed. And after we do feedbacks for a local community to make decision making for all different type of managements. We face a big challenge because we use mobile monitorings in a remote place where there's not networking. So that's why we use Kobo app to ease these collections and to make data real time available for analysis and make a regular feedback for local community. That is the main key challenges for us in the southwest and southeast of Madagascar. That's a little bit the key context of monitoring project in Madagascar. So thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Neston. A nice little synopsis, highlighting here that this is a long-term monitoring program. It started many years ago, with obviously the use of that data for local decision-making. Thanks, Neston. Let's move on to South Africa. Nico, over to you. Nico, are you there? Kasia, can I ask you to go to the slides just as a backup?
Sure, no problem. I don't see Nico in the chat at the moment. So if it's okay, I'll just step in for a second here. We've been focusing from ABALOBI side on a couple of deployments of our ABALOBI monitor platform in 3 communities. So the one we'd like to highlight today is the Olifants Fisher Group under the Ebenezer municipality. And so we've been working with these 3 groups to sort of coordinate the program or the project. It's been funded by the Oak Foundation, the Ebenezer municipality, and the University of Cape Town. Its location is on the west coast of Southern Africa, quite high up, about 3-4 hours drive from Cape Town. And the 3 communities sit within the Olifants River. And so here we have 3 monitors currently working. It slowly grew from 2019. We're currently working with 38 fishers. Nico will speak more about this, but these are just the main fishers. There are actually crew members associated with it. So we suspect that number sits more towards the 70 fishers. And this is focused on the mullet fishery within the river or estuary. Key outcome that we'd like to obtain from this project is supporting fishers in this data collection and also facilitate discussions with policymakers and help them understand this fishery. We've had quite a flagship status in this community for ABALOBI Monitor, and the community is engaging quite heavily with it. So that's been a great success for us. Key challenges are data connectivity in the area. Many of you will hear a lot about load shedding in South Africa, where cell phone networks also collapse in that specific area. And we also struggled a little with initial tech uptake in the community. A bit more about that from Nico and the video.
Thanks so much, Kasia. Yeah, those challenges exactly what we want to talk about in the discussion. Let's hop over to the Comoros. Fanny, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Well, it's very echoey where I'm sitting. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yeah? Okay, good. So I'm based in the Comoros on the island of Anjouan, which is the island closest to Mayotte. And I work for Blue Ventures, but we're really completely embedded with our partner, Dahari. So here we work with a number of communities on the west coast of Anjouan. So they're called the communities of Vassi, which comprises of 4 villages, and Moya, which is 3 villages that share a common resource together. We started in Vassi in 2017, so we do have quite a big data set for that community. from then. And for the second community with Moya, we started working with them just last year. So yeah, building up gradually. And in fact, we have made, well, little steps into a third zone. Oh, sorry, just lost my microphone. Yeah, into a third area as well, which is another 3 communities. So what we're looking at is mainly the octopus fishery for gleaning data. And the sampling is really based around that fishery. So we go out sampling in, well, on average two periods per month based around the low tides. And then there's also smaller fisheries around juvenile fish and gleaning just for shells that we find on the reef. The way that it works is we have a number of fishers associations and that are involved in managing the resource. And I suppose we look through them first to see if there are data collectors that are available to work with us, and then opening it out to other community members as well. And we found that this is a really good way for engaging interest in the environment and in managing the resource. So actually we have community data monitors that monitor the reef gleaning data, which we collect through ABALOBI app. And we also have a boat fisheries data set, which we collect through Toko as well. Challenges that we face in the field, like others have said, data connectivity is one as well. It's not written there, but yeah, sending the data back to us. Literacy levels and levels of education in general can be quite challenging in terms of finding monitors that are able to work with us to use the technology, as well as if we want to do kind of live feedbacks with the fishers, that can also be quite challenging, as well as the technology to be able to do that, and connectivity to be able to do that in the field. And yeah, lastly, the data cleaning is quite a big challenge for us. For example, like in the second zone, I don't have a number of estimated fishes there because there are many duplicates. So, you know, just simple steps like that take a bit of time to iron out. I think that's it.
Thanks so much, Fanny. Super comprehensive. So you now heard a little bit about Madagascar, about South Africa, about Comoros. We're now hopping over the Indian Ocean to Indonesia, where our next speaker, Japeza, has presented a video message.
Di Torsiaje sendiri, kita Japesda di sana melakukan pendataan itu. Pertama, kita mau melakukan pelatihan dulu, simulasi kepada teman-teman enumerator atau pengumpul data di lapangan. Setelah mereka melakukan simulasi, kemudian mereka mulai melakukan pendataan di semua nelayan yang ada di Torsiaje. Nah, hal lain yang didata juga adalah pendataan gonad dari gurita itu sendiri. Nah, kami dibantu oleh enumerator ini, mereka melakukan pendataan setiap hari semua nelayan yang gurita yang ada di Torsiaje. Pendataannya dilakukan ada yang di rumah pengepul, ada juga yang dilakukan di rumah nelayan. Nah, data ini kenapa kita kumpulkan? Ini tentunya data ini sebagai alat yang bisa digunakan untuk pengambilan keputusan bagaimana mereka mau mengelola wilayahnya selanjutnya. Pertama, tantangan yang kita hadapi adalah ada rasa kekhawatiran dari nelayan bahwa mereka tidak mau guritanya untuk kita lakukan pendataan karena itu akan berpengaruh ke kualitas guritanya. Yang kedua, soal mindset. Jadi mereka masih berpikir bahwa ketika kita mau mendata ada hal-hal lain yang karena termasuk mereka kita lakukan pendataan itu ada yang kecil-kecil, ada yang masih 0,1, 0,2. Nah, kemudian ini yang kita sampaikan ke mereka pelan-pelan bahwa kita mendata ini tujuannya lebih ke ingin melakukan riset, ingin melakukan penelitian. Kendala lain yang dihadapi oleh teman-teman enumerator saat pendataan adalah saat mereka melakukan pendataan dalam sehari itu, misalkan ada hampir semua nelayan yang turun dengan jumlah tangkapan yang banyak, sementara jumlah mereka itu hanya 5 orang yang melakukan pendataan di desa Torsiaje. Kita ingin melihat di mana lokasi yang kira-kira yang dilakukan penangkapan itu sudah overfishing, mereka menangkap karena masih banyak yang kecil-kecil. Nah, ini bisa kita terapkan model penutupan sementara, dan alhamdulillah dengan model penutupan sementara 3 bulan, dengan kita memberikan kesempatan gurita tumbuh berkembang, dan kemarin mereka nelayan di Torsiaje sudah memanen hasil dari tabungan mereka selama 3 bulan, dan alhasil mereka sumringah, mereka sangat senang dengan hasil yang mereka dapatkan. Ternyata ini terbukti.
Thank you, Japezda. I'm not so sure what happened at the end of the video here, but thank you, Japezda, Fanny, Kasha, and Nestin for kind of a quick overview of the work in those 4 countries. Now, to immerse you even more, we're going to be doing a bit of traveling. We're going to be watching a video that we've prepared for over the last couple of months, where we've engaged with the monitors who in our opinion, are the real knowledge holders in fisheries, and really try to connect with them on some of their thinking. Where are they at? What are their challenges? Where do they see the importance of community-based monitoring? So without further ado, please, this is a premiere for sure. It's not on YouTube anywhere else. Please enjoy this video. We look forward to our conversation thereafter.
Anrik Goedeman, ik is een Ebenezer. Ik werk nu al voor een jaar in 2 maanden voor ABALOBI.
Goeiedag, ik ben Jenny Blankenberg van Ebenezer. Ik doe moniteringswerk in de area Olifantsdorp. Ons doen het dagelijks, elke dag, elke ochtend. Zoals die vissermannen inkomen, nemen ze de data. Ons doen het op een boekje, want soms is die vissermannen haastig met hulle se vangste, wanneer hulle wil het gaan verkopen, dan doen ze het op die boekje en dan zetten ze het op die tablet. En die data is belangrijk, zodat die visserman kan ook zien, dat is waarvoor hij werkt. Dit is zijn getallen daar. Dit is wat belangrijk is voor die vissers. Van als al die data zijn, dan weet ons wat komt eigenlijk uit die rivier.
Je m'appelle Hilal Sedina Sedbakar, je viens de Dindi. Donc mon rôle, surtout dans les communautés, c'est de faire sensibiliser et les mobiliser pour savoir vraiment nos objectifs dans le travail. C'est à partir de là qu'on fera vraiment une amitié avec eux et ils vont accepter de faire le suivi de la collecte de leurs données.
Enumerator itu pendataan, itu mendata panjang kepala, berat, terus jenis kelamin. Nah, selain itu ada informasi lainnya seperti mereka biasanya turun jam berapa, terus ini guritanya dapat di mana, pulau mana, berapa bensin berapa liter. Mahaswaze, haitenga ti hamarua, haitenga ti mafitiaze. Ani maru kami misi ko mangara kat ni maru ko tamitui
Pour le suivi, de manière générale, poisson ou bien poulpe, il y a la technique utilisée. C'est-à-dire que si le pêcheur est venu là, on demande toujours quelle est la technique utilisée pour faire la pêche. Est-ce qu'ils utilisent du rouva, du filet, ou bien des draps, ou des moustiquaires, ou bien le pêche comment?
Karena dulu dari 2014 itu yang kecil-kecil masih kita ambil, masih kita olah yang kecil. Yang 1 ons, 2 ons masih kami olah. Sekarang sudah tidak diolah lagi karena masih dibudidayakan kayak masih dilepas. Tunggu dia besar naik B atau A itu masih bisa ditangkap. Jadi orang di sini sudah mulai, artinya perkembangan sudah bagus size-nya.
Kalau dulu belum ada pendataan 0,3 diambil. Terus juga Makassar kan diambil. Sekarang tidak. Itu yang 0,3 dibuang. Dia taruh dia kami berkembang besar dia.
Kalau jadi ini penutupan selalu syukur. Penutupan 2 pulau itu untuk mengembangkan daya tarik juga di situ. Mengapa? Nelayan mungkin sudah tidak ada lagi ambil dari 3 ons. Dari 3 ons kali manusia kan sudah beda harga, beda sampai 10.000. Bagaimana sudah mereka nelayan di sini bisa menerima, bisa dapat guritanya sampai 1 kilo, mungkin harganya lebih naik kan?
So ek sal sê die tegnologie is iets baie goed want die visserman kan nou teruggaan. Hy kan nou vir hom bewys op 'n app of hy kan vir hom bewys op pen en papier.
Tena mapalaki nazy le smartphone satria tamin'ny talohany zahay zara mahachasy 30 laka, 27 laka. Fa amizao zany mba fa magnachasy eo amin'ny 36, 37, 40 agny zany.
In het begin was het nog een beetje moeilijk geweest. Maar later, je komt zo goed recht. Je is ook maar nog gewoon, je moet die tablet gebruiken.
As maar net soms op sommige plekken is er niet plek om jouw tablet te chargen. Dan moet je maar nou wachten tot je indag bij de huis komt.
Awalnya saya pendataan itu mereka agak tertutup gitu karena ya kan orang baru juga saya jadi tidak apa ya, enggan untuk memberikan. Kalau misalkan saya mau nanya apa lokasinya di mana ini terus bensinnya berapa, itu mereka masih takut-takut gitu mau ngasih informasi.
Hulle voel belangrijk, want dit is hulle se visvangste daar. Hulle voel belangrijk, hulle voel trots op dat wat hulle doen. En ek doen dit so by die visserman wat hy sien. Daar sy naam. Dis jou bakkie, maar dat jou boot se naam. Awesome. Hulle sien dit ook self.
Tiasa mi telefone, nahafahamu kagete na kagete na salsa mare. Sasa masalsa miasa zahay maranjay ng kibitiza daw manang piniyose ke abadi kakiti abadi tahito sa dalang grade. Kafaten tanaga zahay vita saay tunga temanaw sumamat na pagpang sa direito fazendo para pintar. Isso me escreve para saber se acabou para bem, não tem que saber usar o sacafa, vou vir de sacafa e fazer uma reflexão. Vida coisa sudah serang bukan di mau mencari ya syukur lektera atau mau bisa sanggup kalau dari kecil waktu tadi saya baca sejarah saya kuat karena itu ya bahwa di maksudnya suami tentang kita saya tengah terus saya tengah sama tangan saya pakai huri dari lama lagi yang bisa sama lagi jadi kayak saya ngawen awai habis saya mau pakai dah sudah bapian naro para la mapian suat tengah sek masih pakai nerene mana kesannya sabatonan itu so mesti pakai mandan dan bawa sana ibu masalah wah ini ada pangan di kerja ini sudah sekarang teman-teman ini pasti ikut semua yang mana itu sampai pengen sekarang kalau sama selalu pakai dan saus pakai nama nabi saus semua biasa bisa ini mana mandan itu sudah kenal sama
Dat is elke dag, man. En het is gemakkelijk. Jij hoeft niet te excusen. Ik meen maar. Want ons verstaan elkaar als er problemen is, ons praten daarover. Die communicatie moet daar wezen. Dat is jij niet visser, man.
Familie, dat is je familie. Net dat gevoel wat je hebt. Je gaat elke dag. Dat is jouw mensen.
Die foundation beter tenen mereixar matit com cascascan de langosta de linotexons and chef matit e foundation beter tenen mereixar matit com cascascan de langosta de linotexons and chef matit janjay manita nan le langosta mga tudrengi langosta matin kring nas tukunyala da ireng zani fa presha fa matit kabe da no famishing fivrian ni commit da miachkeu za no famishing fivrian pesheres mas miachkeu da ze raio coisa na tokutat samle be como sigang
Inasos vergaring zit hou is haar altyd 'n weergawe van maandelikse data waar die visserman self sien wat hy gevang het. Dit is sy werk.
En dit motiveer die visserman vir die wat die daai week of die maand op die see was hy, op die rivier was hy. En ABALOBI kom doen sy data presentation, dan gee dit nou weer vir hom die moed.
Il y a des avantages parce que au lieu de travailler seulement sur le suivi, on gagne beaucoup de temps pour faire d'autres travaux, par exemple la mobilisation ou bien autre travail. Il y a des avantages. Il y a un petit, c'est pas pareil, il y a une petite différence. Parce que chez ABALOBI, lorsqu'on est en train de mettre les données dans les tablettes, on voit déjà le matériel. Que si on dit que c'est un tonto, on voit déjà un tonto. Si la personne ne sait pas lire correctement, mais il voit directement le matériel, les photos de chaque matériel. Donc je vois que c'est facile.
Pada saat pendataan itu mereka banyak yang terus sama saya. Kebetulan kan pertama pendataan itu animatornya cuma ada 3, saya kecuali dengan Pina. Pada saat itu mereka tanya-tanya untuk apa data ini dikumpul. Terus saya sampaikan bahwa data ini dikumpul untuk kepentingan pendataan berita saja. Datanya akan dikumpulkan kemudian akan dikembalikan ke nelayan bawah, dan bahwa di desa tersaji ternyata potensi sekuritasnya sekian dan sekian pada tahun ini. Kemudian setelah berjalannya waktu, mereka sudah tidak tanya lagi kenapa ini kenapa.
Tiraha andra saya menjuse mba manora puru uze amti asa tahun zuze nuti fuka chaso ay bakanjia ke.
Ja, want hulle is altyd gewillig om hulle se data voor te gee, want dit in die toekoms, as miskien government soek wat kom met die rivier of so, dan is daar data wat kan gewys word. Dit is waar die vissers in die water het kry.
Dat is mos die visserman se data. Hy kan mos nou sien wat elke maand aangaan op die rivier. Dat is as ons besoekers kyk aan die besoekers sien maar die vissermanne gebruik die rivier vir goeie doeleindes.
So ons is net bly ons kan ons nou beheer vat oor ons bronne en ons waters en vir departemente kan wys die visserman is heel in bestuur van sy bronne tot op die bemark van sy vis.
L'avantage qui se donne sur les suivis, c'est que après avoir collecté les données sur terrain, on leur revient avec les figures, tout ça. Et là, ils se rendent compte que là, s'il y a des diminutions, il y a d'augmentation des produits, et si les activités, si les initiatives vont bien, est-ce qu'il y a des changements, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas de changements. Et là, à partir des données-là, on sait si on veut augmenter autre chose et si on veut diminuer autre chose.
Tena ilan'le pêcheur zany le tatsy satria mba ahezan'ireo hoe kay zao zany ny vokatry azonay boaka lasta am'le notec zone ato par rapport am'le ambadiky ny notec zone. Am'izay zany tokony ho ren'ireo zany le poids am'izay mba tena hanovan'ireo série an'le raha zany sy am'izay si simban'ireo sasy zany le notec zone sy ny dina igny.
Kalau yang pertama itu nelayan itu kayak kaget kan, nelayan kaget. Oh ternyata hasil saya itu sekian gitu. Hasil saya itu sekian. Ternyata kalau dihitung-hitung dibilang banyak gitu. Jadi nelayan yang sebelumnya tidak tahu tangkapannya biasa per hari atau misalkan sampai 1 minggu begitu kan mereka tidak tahu. Pas ada umpan balik data terus dijelaskan nelayan itu jadi tahu. Jadi oh jadi saya itu sehari sekian gitu.
Som van hulle vra sommer nou hoekom as jy net met die boekie sit my naam op hy ding wat jy het. Ek vra wat se ding die tablet.
I hope you enjoyed it. We were adamant that even though this is a virtual meeting, we wanted to ensure that the monitors we work with had a chance to share some of their insights and how they are anchoring these programs within their communities and what some of the practical challenges are, what some of the dynamics are and the changes, as well as what some of the hopes are for the growth of these programs. We now have, in our next session, have a bit of a panel, and I'm really excited. I was a bit nervous because Nico had some technical challenges, but I'm really excited now to introduce Nico Waldeck to share some of his learnings with all of you. Nico is the co-founder of ABALOBI. Nico has been rooted in small-scale fishing communities all his life. And he's been running and supporting this community-based program for the last 12 years. So it's a very long-standing community-based program where over time, from monitors moved on from paper-based recording to digital recording. And in fact, I see now on the video as well that some of the monitors that you saw in the video are here as well. So Nico, a warm welcome to you and the monitors. We're really excited to have you here. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Serge. My apologies, we struggle a little bit with connectivity this morning, and also with youth supply this morning, and that's one of the challenges. I want to say from the beginning, we struggle even with access to water currently. It's the load shedding in South Africa. It's also now the water supply are interrupted, so we are facing real challenges. But nevertheless, we are here. We are glad to be part of this panel, me with the monitors, and I want to dive deep into my presentation. Let me say it from the start, it's coming from my heart. It's part of what I'm experiencing, what I'm loving. So we've started this ABALOBI monitoring project in the Olifants River since late 2019. We've started with one monitor, Jenny, on my right-hand side, and was only 6 fishes in a certain region of Ebenezer, or the Olifants River, which are named Olifants Drift. Currently, we have expanded to 3 projects, to 3 monitors in the project, Aleta and Anrik. Aleta is covering an area that we called, or a small settlement that we call Papando. So up to date, we have monitored so far 38 main fishes. So remember that each main fisher work with a crew member. So we are monitored over 70 fishes currently. And we have so far monitored 26 different kinds of species that has been caught by the fishers. Over 1 million, close to 1,100,000 fish, individual items has so far been caught. And it amounts to 2,300 trips. A key aspect since the beginning of ABALOBI Monitor that we have identified is that you need to identify the right kind of personnel for the job. It's that individual that are trusted by fishers. It's the individual that are very familiar with the struggles of the fishers. It's the individual that understand the importance of fishing as main source of food security for the fishers. So the appointment of the right personnel is crucial because they are, in our case, they are the first phase of ABALOBI into the community. So an important notice also is that when we've introduced the ABALOBI Monitor program, we didn't come in with the tech, there's the tablets, there's the computers. No, we have come in with what they are used to know. It's pen and paper. And gradually we have enabled the monitor and trained them on locking the paper-based catches on the ABALOBI Monitor app. And that was important. That was a very important and a clever move from the side of ABALOBI because that monitor, Jenny here, she have developed in a trainer to the other monitors, and she was the support of the other monitors. And secondly, for me, was the response of the fishers. It was very crucial for us that the monitor herself have identified the 6 fishes in the beginning of the project. So very soon, the other fishers have started to complain about why doesn't you focus on us? Why are you only capturing the data of those? So it was a positive response from the fishers. And that's why we have expanded, to 3 monitors and all the fishers of the Olifants River. One important thing that we've started with is making the fishers aware that they are the owners of the data, which means that they are in control. And that is very critical because in the past, when they give information to the universities, they give information to the government, to the Department of Fisheries. When the information left the community, they was no longer the owners of that information. By the way, if they want to access the same information that they have provided the different stakeholders, they have to pay for it. What is also important was that we have reflected the data back to the fishers. We've started with monthly data meetings. Jenny have mentioned about it in the film before, So we have these monthly meetings with the fishers, then we reflect about the data they have provided ABALOBI with, right? And there was 2 things that are of very importance for me in this meeting. The one is that the fishers had start talking, about the change that they have experienced, the change that they only could say in words, but suddenly they was empowered to prove the change in words in terms of the fish patterns, you know. They were used that in the past, the fish appears in abundance in a certain month. Normally it's the summer month. Now for a couple of years, and with the collecting of the data on ABALOBI monitor, we have seen, you know, a difference and a change. And suddenly now we could see that the fish in abundance appear more in May, June, July, into the winter months. We have noticed. Another aspect that in this data sessions that we have with fishers was that fishers have mentioned, remember that ABALOBI is very active in with the fishers in co-design. So the fishers have mentioned one thing in this data sessions is that, you know, it's important that we capture the full names of the people that are crewing with them. So currently we only capture, you know, a crew member and not identify a person who is the crew member. So that has become important for them. And I will later on, I will discuss this. Why is it important from a South African context? So what we've noticed that the data sessions have really empowered the fishers, especially the leaderships. So let me explain it in this way. The fishers are fishing in the estuary, in the river. And according to our law, the South African law, you know, each and every estuary needs to have a management plan. And there needs to be a management forum that meets regularly. And the fishers are part of that forum, the Olifants Estuary Management Forum. And on that forum sits, you know, government officials from different departments, water and sanitation, mineral resources, etc., fishing, you know, and also environmentalists are all on this forum. And in the fishers, you know, they feel so empowered. They are so confident that they present their own data on this kind of meetings on a very regular basis to that big forum. Other thing that are of importance is that currently on the west coast of South Africa, communities are flooded with mining applications, beach mining, gas and oil, and it really threatens the livelihoods of fishers. But it's now easier for fishers to prove to the courts that their dependency on fishing for their livelihood. And fishers are part of current court cases about it. One big thing, and that's where I want to come to, one big thing in terms of the South African, the fisheries. Currently, we're in a situation where fishers have to prove that they are fishers for a period of 10 years. Now, a fisher with his indigenous knowledge would easily tell you that I'm a fisher. Look at my hands. Look at my, you know, look at my way of life. I'm a fisher. Ask the same fisher to put it on paper, to prove it on a paper. Then it's a totally different ballgame, you know. But with ABALOBI, you know, it's easier now for them to prove because we provide them with the catch records over a period of time, over years, you know. So it's easy for them to say that in 2022, I was fishing. Here's my proof. Here's my catching records.
One more minute, Nico.
Pardon?
1 more minute, Nico.
Oh my gosh, I'm just going.
I know you are.
So I haven't even touched on the relationships between the monitors and the fishers, but I'll go to some of our key lessons. You know, fishing has become so unpredictable in the current time. So you can't plan, you know, around when you are available. Fishers needs to be available. One of the key lessons that we learned you need to be flexible. You need to be there when fishers are not fishing. So that's important in terms of the engagement. Another thing is, and that is so critical, is don't leave your pen and your paper at home. From a South African context, it's so critical and important because load shedding has hit us so hard, you know, that we haven't pulled off, or we have poor connectivity, or we have no connectivity. Like, in one thing, you know, the change of the weathers have an impact on the mental state of fishers. So you need to take that always into consideration. Sometimes fishers are catch nothing and they are becoming very moody, you know. So you need to learn to ride the wave of their moodiness. So that is one of the big lessons that we have learned. If there's extra time, Serge, I will come back and speak about the relationship, the importance of the relationship between ABALOBI, the monitor, between ABALOBI, the monitor, and the fisher.
Thank you so much, Nico. I know you can speak for another few hours and it's all super insightful. We all thoroughly enjoy it. As the host, I have to be a bit of a timekeeper, so I'm going to move on to the next speaker. However, we have a discussion coming up, and then there'll be plenty of opportunity to get back to you and also to engage with the monitors. We have enough people in the room here that can translate instantly as well. And yeah, we're just excited to have you. So thank you, Nico. Our next speaker is Inda Rufiati. Inda is the fisheries lead at Blue Ventures, based in Blue Ventures, and she has a wealth of experience working very closely with small-scale fishers on monitoring, analysis, and of course the interpretation of that data. So Inda, thank you so much. We look forward to your contribution.
Yeah, thank you, Serge. I will share my screen. Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for attending this session. So I will discuss about our work in Indonesia. And yeah, my name is Inda Rufiati and I'm fisheries lead in Yayasan Pesisir Lestari in collaboration with Blue Ventures. So we have been working with 17 local NGOs in Indonesia. We are supporting 71 small-scale fishing communities. Mainly, they are targeting octopus. And the way of work the way we work in Indonesia, we don't work directly in the field, but we support the local NGOs because the local NGOs, they have been supporting the communities for decades and they are living very close to the community. So that's why we work with them. And for now, we are not only working in octopus fisheries, but also in mud crab fisheries and other fisheries, but we will discuss this presentation in octopus fisheries. So the way of we assisting the community, so we start from fisheries profiling, participatory monitoring, data feedback session, and then fisheries management at village level, and then evaluation and adaptive fisheries management, and we work with the government and we involve the community from the beginning of the process. So this is the whole journey. And yeah, I will start with why we work with Octopusiania. So Octopusiania, it is a main catch for many small-scale fishers, including women, and they use selective fishing gear. So they use artificial bait, and sometimes they use like spare. So it is very selective and almost no bycatch. And Octopusiania is a short-lived species, so they live until 18 months and they lay eggs and die. And they also grow very fast. So during the first 6 months of their life cycle, they grow double in size. And this is a good entry point for the communities to learn about fisheries management in relatively short time period, and also with a species that is relatively easy to understand because of the characteristic of the Octopusiania. So that's why we use Octopusiania for the communities to learn. And then for the first process is fisheries profiling. So we assist the communities to collect information about the village, about the fishing gear they use, the fishing method, the seasonal calendar, because sometimes there are good season, there are bad season, there are seasons where they catch big octopus, where they catch small octopus, and also there are seasons where they harvest the clove, for example, so they don't go for fishing. And then we also do supply chain mapping and then stakeholders mapping. So from the information that we collect from fisheries monitoring, fisheries profiling, we create a fisheries monitoring design with the communities. So we work with communities to decide what information they want to collect. So we created the protocol with our partners and the community, and then we are working on the data collection tools. So for example, in the past we used paper and pen for the data collection, and then ruler, and then scale, but now we also use the mobile system. So we use tablet or mobile phone, and also Kobo toolbox, and then we train the communities to collect the data. So we collect the we train the community to collect the data on the fisheries. So they collect, for example, the weight of octopus, the length of mantle of octopus, and then the sex of octopus. So it's like training marine biologists in the villages. So the communities are very interested to learn about, for example, how to identify the sex of octopus. So after we train the communities to collect the data, so we move from the paper-based system to the digital system. And from the paper to mobile, we also see there are several challenges. For example, if we collect data on octopus, your hands will be sticky. So it is hard to put your hand on the screen because it can ruin the screen, for example. So this is the challenge. Well, if you use paper and pen, you can directly write the data into the paper. So also the second challenge is about the technology literacy. So for example, not all the communities, they use smartphones. So we need to introduce how to use smartphone to the communities. And also of the data collections, we are still very reliant on the spreadsheet or Excel sheet. So it is also something that can be a challenge for us. And then we also have some lessons that we learn about moving from paper to mobile. So for example, we start small. So we started only with like 1 or 2 communities, 1 or 2 data collectors. When we know the implementation in the field, we will expand it to other data collectors or to other communities. And then we also adapt regarding using the tools. For example, if you use paper and pen, it can be collected by 1 person. But if we use data, mobile data system, it means that sometimes we need 2 people, one person collect the data using the paper and the other person inputting the data to the Kobo mobile system. Or we can also 1 person measuring the octopus and then another person inputting the data, because otherwise it will take longer time because your hands will be sticky. And then we also ask the communities what kind of information or tool that will be important for them. And they said that if we can do the automatic calculation for the income, that will be useful for them so that they know the information about income directly. So the data that is collected by the communities, we help them to clean the data, do the data validation, and then we help them to make the visualization. And usually our partners, for example, like Japesda, they will create this beautiful infographic and they use local language and various colors like this so that the community will be interested to learn more about the data visualization. So the data that we visualize, the partners will inform this data back to the community in the data feedback sessions that we hold every 3 months. So for example, you can see in the upper screen, you can see that the Tableau data visualization that we created, and on the bottom, it is the way how Japesda make it into something that is more beautiful and easier for the communities to understand. And then from the data feedback session, usually during the first data feedback session, it is about the how we use the data for the communities to understand the trend and the change in the fisheries. And then during the second one, they usually want to know more about what data they want to collect. And then usually over time, they started to discuss, okay, let's use this data for the management so that they can make the fisheries more sustainable. So using the data that is collected by the community, we help them to make a design for the fisheries management. So for Octopusiania, we use fisheries closure because of the nature of Octopusiania that grows fast. So if we close a certain place in certain amount of period, for example, for 3 months, it will give time and space for the Octopusiania to grow bigger. So we use the data for the communities to make the decision. So we will give them options. For example, if you want to make the octopus grow bigger, we can choose a location where there are many small octopus. If you want to let octopus lay eggs, then we can choose a location when there are many mature female octopus. So that's the kind of information or the data that as the basis for the communities to decide the closure. And during the closure, they also make the agreement with the village government. They make the regulation about how to do the surveillance. And then they also must communicate the closure to other villages, because usually other villages also fish in the same fishing ground. And then for now, already 50 temporary closures implemented by the communities with the amount of 6,000 hectares coverage. So you can see that every year they implemented closure, and then the amount of closures are growing, and now already 50 closures. And talking about the power of data, so in Indonesia, there is no national fisheries management for Octopusiania. So we work with the government, with national government to talk about that, the discussion about the drafting the fisheries management plan. So we use the data that is collected by the community to make the national fisheries management, and we establish the country's first octopus working group. And we also want to attract more stakeholders to work together with the fishery improvement program framework. And then what's next? So we also want to incorporate like land-based spawning potential ratio into data collection, also the quality of data collection. For example, we want to collect the quality octopus data. So we want to know, for example, if we introduce the intervention like giving them ice box, so we can measure before and after the intervention, so that we know the percentage that is the quality become better after the intervention. We also want to identify buyers to use mobile monitoring app as the business tool, so that in the future, when we don't work in that community anymore, there's still data collection conducted by buyers. And then we also want to use Airtable to monitor our feed progress. And now more communities want to do multi-species monitoring. So we also collect data not only on octopus, but also mud crab, and then sea cucumber, seaweed, finfish, etc. So this is the example that if we use Octopusiania as the catalyst or the entry point for the communities to learn about data, they will be able to talk about fisheries management, to implement fisheries management. And data is actually the language used by policymakers and scientists. So when the communities can speak with the same language with policymakers and scientists, they can engage about the decision making in the regional level or in national level. I think that's for now, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you, Serge. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Inda. That was really interesting. I was particularly inspired by the drawings and the translation of the tableau visualizations into feedback tools. Really inspiring. Thanks for sharing that. We've now come to the session where we can talk to one another. We can ask each other questions, so we can engage. Of course, it's a webinar. We only have limited time. I'd love us to be all together and spend some time really diving deep, but let's give it a go nevertheless. I'm going to ask a few things. One is that if you do pose a question and you don't pose it in the chat, please raise your hand. I'll get to you. If you can switch on your camera, please do so. And address the question to one of the panel members and or one of the countries or the speakers that presented on their country. Let's start with that. So if you've got any questions for what you saw about Indonesia, about Madagascar, Comoros, and South Africa, please, this is the time. And then, from there, we'll open it up to a broader discussion, hopefully getting some of you to share some of your work outside of those 4 countries. So we've got a first question here for Inda. How long did it take you to convince the fishermen to agree with the no-take zone / closure? You want to take that one now, Inda?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it actually depends on the community. So during the 5 years process, we learned that some communities, after 1 year of data collection, they started to implement closure, but some communities, it takes like 2 years. So it depends on the communities, but now we know that actually within the time frame of 1 year, actually we can do from the data collection, data feedback session, and closure. So we can say that 1 year is very possible for the communities to implement closure.
Thank you, Inda. Another question? I don't see any hands up. Panel members can also ask questions to other panel members. Please go ahead. So Nico, if you want to ask a question to Inda or Fanny or the other way around, please, by all means. Well, then I have a question as you formulate yours. Inda, I wanted to ask, I know a little bit more about the work in Madagascar and the work in Comoros, but I wanted to find out a bit more about your engagement with the partners on the ground and how you engage, how you socialize the concept of data ownership. I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you, Serge. So for the data collection, when during the using the paper, yeah, the paper stays with the community, but the paper also needs more work because we need to input that into Excel system and then to our Excel and then to Tableau. So now we move to digital system. It is faster for us to visualize the data or to analyze the data, and we use the Tableau so that each partner has the link to Tableau and they use that link for the communication with the communities. And some of our data collectors, they also have WhatsApp group with the fishers and with all data collectors, so they can discuss about the data and the data collection in the field as well. So yeah, about the data, for now we still use Tableau as the easiest way for the communities to access the data search. And working with national government, we also feed our data for the government so that it can be the basis for the government to do the stock assessment for national fisheries management plan.
Yeah, thanks, Inda. Really interesting. There's a follow-up question, and anyone here can answer. But how does one decide how many monitors you need in one community? How do you approach that? How do we think about that? And so maybe Fanny, you want to give that one a go, and then I'll actually ask the same question to Nico.
Yeah, I guess for us, the reef flats are quite small if we're talking about octopus closures. And then there are, it's more about the access points. So we station data monitors like at the, if you like, the crossroads where they can leave the reef, or whether the paths come down from the villages. Because potentially, unlike other communities, a lot of the villages, the fishing communities here, they're in the mountain, actually. So people descend from their villages down to the reef flat in front. Yeah, so it's kind of spatially dictated.
Thanks, Fanny. Nico, you wanna contribute as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, Seth. So in our case, it's about the main landing sites along the river. For example, Papendorp is a landing site, and then if you have one monitor, Aleta, then if you a main site in Ibanaise was the name of Olifantsdorp. There you have Jenny, it's the second one, and then the third one is in a region that we call Liverpoos or Hobland, like we say in Afrikaans. So it's about where the fishes are staying, where they are offloading their catches. So in our case, it's 3 monitors.
Thanks, Nico. There's a question here from my friend Momo. Do you find that feeding back data to fishers is enough of an incentive to engage in data collection? And then as a linked question, are there fishers in Partner Village who refuse to engage with the data collection process for time or even other reasons? I'll add that one to your question, Momo. So I'm actually keen to ask everyone this question because it's an important one. So maybe Inda first, then Fanny, then Nico.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Momo. So for example, in the community in Pototano and Labuan Lombok, so there are fishers who refuse to participate in the data collection, but our partners did a great job engaging with them, and they asked the fishers to monitor the habitat. So they do the diving together. So they train fishers to do the data collection on habitat, and they used to be destructive fishers. They used bomb in the past, but now they are the advocate for the data collection, for the fisheries closures and how to maintain the habitat or to protect the habitat, because in the past they didn't know that their water is broken, for example, but now they see that the reef's dying and then they want to protect it. So now because of that, yeah, it is the example that, yeah, sometimes there are communities who refuse, but we need to engage them and take them to the field directly. And when they see the process and they experience it, actually, yeah, now they are the advocate for the fisheries management and conservation.
Nice. Thanks, Inda. Fanny?
I think here it's quite a complicated question. I think in the initial stages, like the fishers, they were quite, sorry, I don't know what's happening in the background. They were quite motivated to engage with the data collectors. Over time, I think it kind of varies a bit, the interaction, because sometimes I think there is some level of misinformation within the community as to our incentives. So we have to work hard, you know, to I'm stuck on the word sensibilize, but that's not an English word. To help me out here, Serge, what am I looking for?
Sensitize, socialize, excite, enthusiasm. I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah, to share information about, you know, our motivations, and also you know, what we're actually doing with the data. So I think that transparency for us, like we work very hard on that we're not, you know, using data for ulterior motives, that it is, you know, for the community, that they own the data. And it's just that relationship really that we need to balance off and to re-engage the community.
Thanks, Fanny. Nico, you want to take that one as well? And of course, anyone in the team here is welcome to answer. We'll make sure, you know, it's translated as well. But yeah, how do we deal in South Africa? How do the monitors? How do we deal when fishers are reluctant for whatever reason, are reluctant to engage with the program?
Yeah, yes, it's so luckily for us, in the case of the olifants, there are no fishers reluctant to give catching information to the monitor. And you know, one reason for me is that the fishers themselves can see, you know, how they can use the information. I've referred to court cases. I've referred, you know, to applications, registrations, and verification of fishing in the South African context, you know. So they see that it's useful for them. Also, another thing is that they starting using it, or the data have created an enable environment for them to speak about other issues within the community, you know. So we managed to have them together using the data sessions, but actually we discussed a whole bunch of issues, you know, the well-being of the fishers, the well-being of the fishing community, you know, the challenges that they are facing, you know, the changing of the weather patterns. But the point of departure is the data that has been collected for that period of month.
Thanks, Nico. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to pinpoint two people here that I know have a wealth of experience, and we'd love to hear from them. But the next question is a French one from Jean-Louis, and it's for someone from Madagascar. Now, I don't know if Neston is still here. If he is, fantastic. If not, if someone from Madagascar can answer. But what happens and what are sort of the reactions when a monitor comes across a group of fisher or a fisher, and the whatever is to be monitored is undersized or frequent females with eggs, or it's above the below the size limit or anything like that. It's not within the sort of the permit conditions or whatever has been agreed at a local level. What happens? What are some of the reaction? How do what is sort of the practicality of dealing with such a situation? Who's from Madagascar here and is happy to take that one? No takers? Then I'll move on. I have a question to Kai from MDPI. I know a bit about MDPI and the work that they've been doing in Indonesia around community-based monitoring. And I wondered, Kai, if I can put you a little bit on the spot, and if you don't mind sharing a few insights, based on what you've heard here, is it resonating with your work? Are there some key differences? Are there some key insights you would like to share?
Hi, Serge, and hi, everyone. Thanks for a chance, and thanks for an amazing presentation. It's always inspiring to get the experts talking in these kind of webinars at Forum. To be honest, a lot of things resonate. I think input from Nico, from Fanny and Inda, we work closely. Of course, we know Inda, we know a lot of the experts that are joining here today during this call or webinar. I think that MDPI, one of the strengths is that the organization was based upon data collection, right? So it was really the focus back in the day when it was formed. Maybe because of the industry was really requiring this data and trying to get all the eco certification and trying to get the quality of the fish, at least to have those communities access different markets, right? And something that might be interesting to note is that this happened on kind of two streams. So you've got really at the fisher level, where indeed fishers they fill in their logbooks or they work alongside new technologies, but also at processing plant facilities, right? Which is more on, okay, how do you make sure that data is actually traceable towards the end consumer, right? If we look at it from a market perspective. So, well, alongside around 535 fishers have been involved and are still involved, filling in their logbook. What we do see after 10 years is that although, we start asking, okay, what happens if we would leave from those areas? Do they really understand that data is still key for them, that they have to kind of take care of it by themselves or not? And that's where I think I've heard a lot of it. It's like, how do you make sure that fishers understand that their data is their leverage, right? If they can use the data and they can actually leverage, whether it's for maybe, I don't know, let's say a total allowable catch, that would be maybe a very high level, but even for small projects that could happen in their communities, whether they want to put a marine park all of a sudden, I don't know, next to their community, or they're, getting sand outside the beach of things that we can see. With this data and these numbers, they do have that leverage and they can present it. So what MDPI is trying to understand is like, okay, we don't know how long we will be with these communities, with these particular communities. How do we make sure that they continue this process? One could argue whether the data that fishers themselves gather alone or not is, of a high standard. But I think that that's the beauty of this work, and that's one of the challenges that we, I think, as NGOs face on the field. So that's a little bit of input. Serge, I don't know if you want to ask anything else, but I'm around and we
have hundreds of questions, but we'll have to pick this up in the next phase of what we're trying to do here. But thank you so much, Kai. I appreciate it. Eunice from Comrade, are you here? If you're here, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Yes, hi Serge, I'm here.
Hey,
happy to be
great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. So this was very great. The presentations were so nice. I appreciate them. So many learnings. Unfortunately for us, we have not rolled out mobile data collection. We're still struggling with manual/paper-based data collection. Since we just started the fisheries data collection activity 3 months ago, we are headed to our feedback sessions. We are hoping for positive impacts. Everyone is excited to see what we have in store in terms of fisheries data. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Eunice. I'm glad I asked you. It's kind of the perfect segue into the next session. I haven't forgotten about those 2 key questions from you, Mark, as well as from Katina. These are absolutely critical questions. Hopefully everybody gets a chance to read them. And these are questions we would definitely like to engage you all further on. But before I hand over to my colleague, Abigail, who's going to really sort of wrap it up and take you into the next steps, I was wondering, Matt, if you could pull up the poll. We've got, as Zoom has got all these gadgets, we've got a little bit of a poll. And so here we go. We wanted to ask you to spend a minute or so going through the poll. Thanks, Matt. I saw 1 question. Is there more?
I think I need to do one at a time, so we'll see. We got 35 of 61 people have clicked, and I can tell you right now it's 51% yes, 49% no, so we're very, very tight.
Really interesting. Thanks, Matt. I'm not a Zoom fundi, so I wasn't sure how the poll worked. Should have done my own work, but great. And here comes the next question. It's a very leading question, and you will see why. Thank you so much. Matt, if you can give us the answers to that second question, that will be the ideal opportunity for Abby to jump in. Here we go. 38%, very interesting. So some of you may wonder, what is the SSFF? What is this all about? So I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Abby, who's going to be wrapping up and and start closing this webinar.
Thanks, Serge, and thanks to all of the speakers and the panelists and everyone behind the scenes, and all of you guys asking questions. It's been a really great webinar. As I said, and as Serge said, we had a little bit of a leading question there. We had some questions that were unanswered, and I think there's more discussions to be had. This group of people have a lot of experience and a lot to share, and we want to encourage those discussions outside of our formal meetings like this where we all get together. And the place to do that is in the ICT for fisheries, or small scale fisheries group on the small scale fisheries hub. So I want to take a moment now to encourage you to join if you're not a member, or comment if you are. I'm just going to share my screen to show you where you can sign up and find the conversation. So as I say, we're hosted on the Small Scale Fisheries Hub at ssfhub.org. And with everything, the first thing you have to do is join the website. So you can click the join button up in the top right-hand corner. But I'm already a member, so I'm just going to log in. And yeah, if you've got a moment now outside of your meetings, I would encourage you to do this before you get into all of the rest of your workday. So once you've got your membership for the website as a whole, you need to find us. And we're a separate group. So anywhere you say group, you can find us. So that you can navigate down here. I'm going to use this bit at the top. and choose groups. You'll often find us in the trending groups sidebar here because we're one of the more active groups. But if you can't, because we were one of the first groups to be made on the hub, we're actually the first one on the list. So you have to scroll through. And once you find us, you can find all of the posts that are going on in the group. So there's two different ways to post. You can post in the stream, which is for more informal things, for sharing events or small pieces of information. So I'm just going to say hello. Please. So I can post into the feed and you'll see that appear and people can like and reply to what you're doing. If you want to have a more in-depth discussion, you can create a topic. So you can see in the topics that there's all sorts of discussions going on about specifically our work in the field of technology. So to make a new topic, you have to go to add content at the top. That's new topic, and then it gives you all sorts of things to fill in. So I'm going to create one called ICF, the small scale fishes Toko telo discussion. And I will add later on all of the discussion topics and the questions that people ask. So feel free to add others, and we'll make sure the panelists are on board and replying throughout the week. The only thing you've got to remember is if you're posting a discussion topic, you have to add our group so it appears in our group. But it's all as simple as adding a few things and pressing a few buttons. And now you can see that we have our topic, our discussion here, and you can add comments and more questions. So we really want this to be a place where you can come anytime to ask questions or share your successes or your failures. We like to hear about what's gone wrong as well as what's gone right. It's really a good place to connect with each other throughout the year. So that's all I have to promote the hub. All that's left for me to do is again thank everybody for coming. As always with the Toko telos, we'll be sharing the recording and all the materials via email and on the website. And please also, as well as signing up to the hub, take 2 minutes to fill out our feedback form. Again, you'll get that over email, and the link is in the chat so that we can continue to make these events better. And please do look out for the next event. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.